Today I really want to talk to you guys about dating safely during the pandemic. So I know we've been in this situation that we're in. It's obviously affected the entire world. Everyone's been, touched in one way or another throughout the world, even on a personal level. I think a lot of us know at least one person or kind of that friend of a friend or something like that has been unfortunately affected in some sort of way with what is going on in the world. Obviously, if you haven't been affected by COVID personally, it's still, really taking a toll on our mental health. So it's been a difficult year. But I know where I am. So for those of you that don't know, I'm based in Ontario, Canada. And we actually just had, I was just double checking the date actually. We had, I believe it was last week, our official, it was kind of like a 1-year anniversary remembrance holiday almost for those to remember those affected by COVID who unfortunately have passed away from COVID during this time. So it's really crazy to think we've been, stuck in this pandemic now for a year. And, even though we've been doing it for a year, there are still a number of you that don't really fully know how to go about dating safely. You're still struggling with it. There's some of you out there that are living, because we have group members that are from different places throughout the world. So you might be in a country that is, or city, province, state, whatever the case being, that maybe some restrictions are being lifted now. So you get to maybe go outside a little bit more, go explore your neighborhood again, and just get out there again a little bit more. Obviously, of course, being safe about it. But, and then some of you too, depending on where you are in the world, we have a lot of vaccines that are coming out. A lot of people are being vaccinated now. So some people are feeling a little bit more safe to go out and date. So whatever the situation you're in, I really, really wanted to speak on this topic because it's still, like I said, even though we've been doing this for a year, it's still a topic that's just highly requested. A lot of single men are always asking me to kind of speak on this topic, asking me for my tips and things like that. So I wanted to share those with you guys. Like I said, even though we've been a year into this, we are hopefully seeing that light at the end of the tunnel. We are seeing more people going out and dating. Especially because, like I said, those vaccines are around the corner. Some restrictions are being lifted. So on that note, I want to make sure that you guys feel comfortable going out there and dating. Because outside of being a requested topic, single men are asking me to talk about, one of the biggest things I also hear a lot from single men I've spoken to out there is that basically the pandemic has killed dating. You cannot date during the pandemic. And I want you to know that's completely, completely false. It is totally possible to date during this time, during this past year. If anything, we've actually seen, I've looked at the statistics behind this, since the beginning of the pandemic, we have never seen so many online dating signups. So many people have been going through this experience now and realizing, how much they value relationships and how they really want someone in their life. And they're prioritizing that right now. Because that pandemic has kind of forced them into that place where they're realizing, I don't want to be alone. I, want someone to care about me, things like that, right? So we've been seeing a huge increase in online dating signups, and if you're newer to the group or if you've been following me for a while, you know I always am speaking on the fact that because we've never seen so many online dating signups as we have during the pandemic, if you were, wanting to attract your dream woman, if this is a strong desire for you to date high quality women, and especially to attract your dream woman in that way, this has actually never been a better time. And it's so funny because a lot of people, specifically single men, think the opposite. But this is actually the perfect time to attract your dream woman right now, because especially of how many people have that strong desire to actually find that long-lasting relationship, because the pandemic has expedited that and expedited those feelings in that way. So diving into, the nitty-gritty of this training, I wanted to share these tips of how you can go about dating safely. If you're wanting to get out there, if you're wanting to take advantage now to really meet high quality women, really attract your dream woman into your life, like I said, this is the year to do it. With the pandemic going on, with so many people online dating especially. So going about dating safely. So the first thing you have to be very aware of is to understand who you are and understand your own personal boundaries and personal beliefs when it comes to this pandemic, right? Because a lot of different people are feeling different things. We have the people who are very for masks. We have the groups that are very against mask wearing. We have, anti-vaxxers. We have people pro-vaxxers. Understand where you kind of stand when it comes to your boundaries, kind of your comfort level, your beliefs. So some of the questions to kind of figure this out, you want to be asking yourself is things like, of course, one of the most obvious ones, like, are you immune compromised, or is someone very close to you that you see often, or that you maybe even live with? So like maybe a roommate, a family member, are they immune compromised? Because if someone close to you is very much at high risk, you might want to think about dating a little bit differently than someone who is not, in a high-risk category or connects with someone who's in a high-risk category. Some other things you want to, ask yourself, again, how I mentioned about masks. So how do you feel about masks? Is this something, are you wearing a mask in an enclosed space? Are you okay with that? Do you not like that? Do you wear a mask even outside? What are, asking yourself these questions. Do you want to be physically distanced? Do you believe in that? Do you support that? Are you against that? So asking yourself these questions and getting very clear on what your comfort level is, what your boundaries are, what your beliefs are. Okay? Because it's so important to get familiar with this area, because you're going to eventually specifically end up meeting someone possibly in person. So it's important to be clear on what you're okay with and what you're not okay with. And the same vice versa. And I'm going to dive into that a little bit more in this training. But you have to kind of know their beliefs and boundaries as well. And so, like I said, I'll dive a little bit more. But the next tip I wanted to share with you is, when you're talking to someone online dating, 'cause, like I said, online dating is really big. A lot of you guys are doing online dating right now because that's really the best option now to go and meet women during this pandemic, because a lot of things are shut down and you have those restrictions to deal with. So when you're talking to a woman online, having a conversation with her, You want to also ask her, like I said, get familiar with, of course, making that conversation, getting to know her, but even going as far as asking her how she's been handling the pandemic, how things have been going for her in that way. Find out what her dating experiences have been like. What has she been experiencing during this pandemic, especially when it comes to dating. And then, as I mentioned earlier, of course, you want to talk to her more about what her boundaries and beliefs are, right? Because let's say you're in a situation where, and this is just an example, but you're in a situation where you're really for mask, you want to wear a mask, even outdoors, and you want to be physically distanced. This is what your boundaries, your comfort level, your beliefs are. But then if you have someone who's, your date, the other woman you're speaking to and going on a date with, she's very, let's say, anti-mask. She doesn't believe in physical distancing. Whatever the case being is that she's very opposite to you. Well, this is something you want to know beforehand. Because if you're taking all these precautions, you want to be very safe, and date safely in that way. You want to know these things beforehand, because this is probably someone that you wouldn't want to meet up with, because they don't share the same kind of beliefs and values as you. And so really, in the grand scheme of things, maybe they might not even be a good match on that alone. But it's also really a big safety thing, because if you're really concerned about safety, whether that's the safety of yourself and possibly others, you just want to get clear of this beforehand, especially before agreeing to meet up for a date in person. So make sure to talk to your match about these things. Find out what they're, like I said, how they're handling the pandemic, how their dating experiences have been, but especially what their boundaries and beliefs are. Like, do they believe in masks? Do they, want to be, if you guys were to get together for an in-person date, would they want it to be outdoors and you guys to be physically distanced in that way as well? So get clear on those kind of things. Especially before meeting in person, because that's really going to help a lot in that way. So another tip I want to share is, because we're in a pandemic now, it has obviously changed dating as we previously knew it before. So this is a time where you don't want to be in a rush to meet in person. Like, if this was pre-pandemic, I normally would say to you, hey, don't talk to someone for like a couple weeks before at least seeing them on video or, meeting up in person or something. Only go like a couple weeks and they should be okay at the longest for showing their face to you, to just make sure they're a real person and all that, right? Because of catfishing concerns. But this is really an exception, because we are in exceptional circumstances, right? With the pandemic, we're all a lot of us are being very careful about who we're choosing to kind of meet with and interact with. So this is something where safety should be the first priority, that health and safety concerns I was mentioning before. So this requires us to be more careful than maybe we might have been in the past. So something that I want to share with you guys that is really important to know is that, if you are talking to a woman and she is pressuring you to meet up very quickly in person, do not feel pressured to meet with someone if you're not comfortable with them yet. Like I said, that first tip, right? That's why I was saying, getting familiar with your comfort zone, your boundaries and things like that. You might not be comfortable to meet up with someone right away because of those health and safety concerns that you have. So the kind of silver lining I've realized from the pandemic in connection to this is that The pandemic has caused us to take dating a lot more slowly, which I think can be a really good thing because it allows you the time to really get to know someone, right? Versus, in person, we would have a lot of probably sexual temptations especially if we're really attracted to the person we're on a date with. So, it really allows us to really get to know someone very well, to take things really slowly, right? Because a lot of us are very concerned about, like I said, physical distancing. A lot of us are wearing masks, so we're not just going around kissing people, and there's concerns there, and even more so too going forward with things like sex, right? Having sex with someone new. There are kind of those health and safety concerns, and we are taking things a lot slower. So in a way, that's kind of a good silver lining. I've realized that it's allowed us to really deepen our connections and really get to know people in that way. And this is a really good time to take advantage of that opportunity to really get to know someone without having those kind of physical temptations we normally would when we would kind of rush to see someone on a date. So, use this time to kind of your advantage in that way. But another tip I wanted to share too, kind of on that note about not rushing to meet in person, is that thankfully there are actually alternatives to utilize that we can still connect with someone and in a very good way too, that's not necessarily in person, or if it's something that, down the line you want to have a date with them in person. But virtual dating is becoming huge during the pandemic, where a lot of people out there, a lot of singles, are actually having video dates. So they're doing video dates, so utilizing safe forms of communication. So obviously video dates is one example there. Texting, of course, is obviously safe. Phone calls, FaceTiming, so again, video calls in that way. But I found personally the safest and best of those options are the video dates. So a lot of people, though, however, don't realize that you can get actually very creative with your video dates to really liven up a date, because a lot of people make the mistake, I've noticed, where they simply just get on camera and they see, the other person they're talking to on camera, and they just talk and have a conversation. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that for a date and getting to know someone, especially if it is that first date and you're just talking to someone new. But however, this can get boring. We've heard of things like Zoom fatigue that is going around now. It can get really boring if all you're just doing is just staring at each other and just talking and things like that. This is why we went on dates with people, right? We want to get a little bit more creative. We want some variety. We want some fun. And there's a lot of things that pre-pandemic we used to do on dates that there is a digital form of it now, a virtual form of it now that we can do. So, for example, I'm going to share some really creative, fun virtual date ideas that you can do that kind of connect actually back to some traditional date ideas that we would do pre-pandemic. So one of them being is that, as you can see from the title of this training, I was creative. If you've heard the expression Netflix and chill, I kind of changed that, expression to Netflix and chat, where essentially, and this is, me being creative here, for a creative date idea where you guys can actually get together, plan on, figure out a movie you guys want to watch together. And in your own, because this is a virtual date, you're in your own separate homes, but watch the movie at the same time and have each other on camera So you can see each other's reactions, you can hear each other's, expressions, things like that. If you're laughing, crying, smiling, whatever the case being, that they can experience this movie with you. Although it can't be in person, it's very similar to, the tradition of that whole Netflix and chill type of date, or, a lot of first dates, you would tend to take a date to a movie theater, for example. So very much connection, just a virtual twist, but very much a connection to those traditional type of dates that we would, go on. Another really creative date idea that you can do just to kind of spice up those, Zoom video calls, for example, is that you guys can decide on a recipe. Say you both have like a favorite dish, or you want to maybe cook the same dish, but come up with a recipe, and you guys can either cook each of your favorite dishes, or you can cook the same dish and put the camera showing you in the kitchen, and you can see her in her kitchen. You guys can talk while you're cooking, things like that. And then that is very much a very coupley bonding type of date. They often say that when you cook together, it's a very bonding experience as a couple. I can definitely say that with my partner and me. When we cook together, it's a lot of fun. It really creates a better bond in that way for us, and we have a lot of fun with it. And so this is very traditional in that way. And then you can kind of take it that step further, where once you guys are done cooking, you set your food up at your table and your camera right in front of you, and she does the same on her end, and have the cameras facing each other's faces. And it almost looks like as if you guys were at a sit-down restaurant together, right? The classic dinner date, right? And it's, again, it's that virtual twist on that traditional date, but it is something that's going to be very creative for you guys to do in that way. And it's a very creative date idea, and it just adds some variety as well to the standard getting on camera and just talking to each other, right? It really helps to liven things up. And a really big thing, especially for the single men out there that are just, going on dates, these types of dates with women, it's something that's so unique as well, because a lot of guys aren't doing dates like this. It's so creative, it's so unique. It's going to help you stand out from the other guys who she could be going on dates with, or the guys that took her on dates already. So it's really going to help you stand out even more so in that way. So those are just a couple of virtual date ideas I want to share with you guys, but it's, a really good way to spice up, those Zoom video calls, for example. And it's something that, you can keep doing these different types of dates until you're at a point where you both feel comfortable meeting in person. And that's a really great tie-in to, my next tip I want to share with you guys is when you do get to that stage where you are comfortable meeting in person, it is definitely a situation of it's better to be safe than sorry when it comes to in-person dates. So when you and your date, so the woman you're talking to, do feel comfortable with meeting in person, it goes back to what I was saying, right? It's so important to talk about all those safety, their boundaries, their beliefs, and sharing yours as well, and seeing where you both stand. But equally, it's as important to talk about, the types of safety precautions that you both want to be implementing on this first, especially first date, or your dates in general, if you are meeting up more than once in person. So some safety precautions that you can take for your date could include, number one, getting tested, if this is possible in your area. I know it can differ depending on where you are in the world, state, provinces, countries. if COVID testing is more accessible for you in your area or not. But if possible, getting a COVID test first, both of you doing that, and then sharing, your results. So kind of very similar to STD testing. A lot of people out there, before they have a new sexual experience with someone, they often do, sometimes can get STD, sexually transmitted disease testing as well, just to make sure that the partner is safe for you to have sex with. It's pretty common that someone or both people do ask of this. So very similar in that way. COVID testing, if it's possible for you to get a test, that really is great, because if you can share the results with each other, obviously, of course, if they're both negative, you are going to feel a lot more comfortable, a lot more safe on that date, knowing that, seeing those results, and vice versa. Your date's going to also feel more safe and more comfortable on your date. And of course, something to keep in mind, gentlemen, is that, the more safe and comfortable you can make your date feel, the more she is going to actually be attracted to you. So that's just an example there. Another precaution you can take is to plan an outdoor date. So, whether things are more open where you are, or if things are more locked down, depending on where you are, an outdoor date during this time is a really good thing, especially if it's warmer weather where you are in the world. Really great to have an outdoor date. A big reason why is because obviously it's better ventilated, the air wise, and also you have the ability to do to be socially distanced if that's something you guys want to do, if that's that comfort level again, and you can also choose to wear masks as well if that's something you and your date feel both more comfortable, like safety and health wise. Another idea too, like another precaution you can take, is to carry hand sanitizer with you and always be using hand sanitizer a lot. And offering your date hand sanitizer as well. Again, those are some of those precautions that you could be taking for in-person dates that, like I said, are going to help make you feel more safe and secure, fit your comfort level, things like that, but especially in turn also make your date feel more safe and secure as well. So, like I said, this is a topic that is just so requested of me from single men to just talk about. So I really wanted to share these tips with you guys because, like I said, in some cases, some of you, even after a year, were, struggling with it, still could not, date, or thought maybe dating was totally impossible during the pandemic. There was just no way you could do it. Or some of you are in situations where maybe restrictions are lifting where you are in the world. Things aren't as locked down. And also in some cases, vaccines are around the corner for a lot of us, or a lot of people we know are already getting vaccinated, again, depending on where you are. So we are definitely seeing more people wanting to get out there and date, be more safe about it. But something I just wanted to make clear to you guys that is, during this past year, I have seen so many people going on so many successful dates, of course, safely, but so many successful dates. I am seeing real relationships forming after a number of dates and things like that. So like, people are dating, they're going on dates, they're, getting into new relationships, new blossoming relationships, long-term commitments, things like that I'm really seeing a lot this past year. And like I said, we've never seen so many people online dating right now. Like, it's crazy the percentage of online dating signups that have been happening this past year. So like I said, if this is something, you know, you've really been wanting to talk to more high quality women, but especially to attract that dream woman into your life, if this is something that's been a real desire for you, it absolutely is possible. You know, saying the pandemic has totally killed dating is a myth. It's totally false, and it's really an excuse at the end of the day. And it's an excuse to prevent yourself from really putting yourself out there, because it is totally safe. Like, there are safe ways, as we just talked about in this training. There are safe ways to go about dating, even during this pandemic, while keeping yourself safe, keeping others safe. So dating is still very much alive in this way. And so, like I said, if this is the year that, you know, or you have this goal that you've always wanted to really just get more focused, attract your dream woman, this is the year to do it. This is the year, like I said, we've never seen as many people online dating. So the amount of women that are online dating is actually insane. So you have so many choices. You've never had this many choices and opportunities before in front of you. So I just really encourage you guys to put yourself out there more, you know, and, you know, moving forward, like I said, if this is really, you know, been something you've been thinking about, like really wanting to focus on attracting your dream woman, this is the year to do it. I would love to, you know, help you if that's something you're wanting to do, because I do private coaching outside of this group. There's a number of new people who just recently joined this group, so those who aren't aware of that, I do private coaching as well. I do have a number of clients I work with. I do work with single men. So I've been working with them this past year to help them safely date, you know, and attract their dream woman during this year, even during a pandemic. And, you know, I've just been seeing such amazing results from the men I've been working with. They've been just growing. They've been talking to high quality women. They've been going on these great dates, you know, attracting their dream woman into their lives, all during such, you know, a crazy year, right? And this is something I've been helping single men do. If this is something you're interested in, if you really want to attract your dream woman, I really encourage you to reach out to me, message me. I'd love to chat with you more about how we can make that happen for you.